Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome once again, as always, to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today, sat in the old jalopy, as I'm about to embark on a follow-up bimble to a video that I did about 2 videos ago now. Now, for anybody who's been watching these latest helpings of Hot Pot, you'll know that I've been walking along the old Lancashire and Yorkshire railway line, which is located in Red Rock in Wigan, and it runs all the way through to Adlington, which is near Charley in the next town, and I believe it goes beyond that. But what I've been walking along the old railway line for is I've been looking for any old mining relics in the Arley area of Wigan, which the former railway passes through. And I've been looking for one mine shaft in particular. But despite my best efforts, Hot Potters, I've just not been able to find the bugger. I've had someone even give me directions, fella by the name of Nature, Urbex or Skater, and they gave me very detailed directions, but I just couldn't find it. It is a bit overgrown this time of year, as we are in June, and it's shaping up to be a pretty decent summer, isn't it, with all the hot weather? So all the undergrowth is shot up and I've just not been able to find it. So what I'm going to do, Hot Potters, on this third bimble, and this will be my final bimble to try and find this mine shaft for you, I'm going to cheat basically. And what I've done, I've brought along my sat-nav, and I've changed it to walking, and I've put in all the coordinates off the old 1840s map of where the mine shaft is located, and this should drop me straight on it. Now what I'm going to do is a belt and braces job. I've brought a juice bank just in case the battery on this dies, and I think I've covered everything, Hot Potters, so we should be able to find it today. Now what's so special about this particular mine shaft, I hear you cry? Well, I've been told by one of my subscribers, a fellow by the name of Andrew Morell, that it still has on it its old NCB tag, which was the little plate that they used to attach to the triangular pillar that they would put on the capping of the mine shaft, and it would basically tell you to keep out, by order NCB. And I believe that because they used to put these little signs on it, it started rumours that these cappings weren't very safe, really, because I was always told as a young Mr H not to step on them because it could just crack and, you know, I'd disappear down a very deep shaft. When you come to think about it as an adult, if it would give way under the weight of a small child, it's not a very good capping, is it? But anyway, that's what we was told, and it was probably due to them putting those little signs on. Anyway, with a bit of luck, we'll be able to find it today, and I'll be able to document it for you. So without further ado, enough waffle, join me once I've made my way over to the rough area where this mine shaft should be located. And welcome back, folks. Now, I'm walking once again in the rough area where this former mine shaft should be located, here in the Arley area of Wigan. I'm once again walking by the side of the canal, which you can just see to my left there, and I'm not on the towpath side, I'm actually on the opposite side, walking through a wooded area, which is sandwiched between the canal and the former Lancashire and Yorkshire railway, which is down a ravine to my right. I haven't documented my walk along the former railway today, simply because I've done that twice already, and it will get a little bit repetitive. And it's the mine shaft that I'm looking for. You know, the actual getting there, that's not important. The journey's not important, Hot Potters, not in this case. The destination is important. Now, according to my sat-nav, which I've got in my pocket, it's just informed me off camera that I'm about 80 yards away from this former mine shaft, so we're not too far away from it now. And the last time I was here, I was with little Lucy, as many of you will recall, and she was trying to get into the canal, and she tried to get in at this point here. And that's because it's low, so she could get in. And because it's all overgrown here, I simply wanted to get on and get away from this point here. And that's why I missed where this former mine shaft is located, because what you're supposed to do, Hot Potters, is step into the wooded area here, and there is a little bit of a footpath here, but it's easily missed. And once you get in, Hot Potters, and you get into this wooded area, there it is up on an hill. So it just shows you, Hot Potters, how easily things can be missed at this time of year, doesn't it? So I'm now going to make my way up to this former shaft, Sure enough, Nature Urbex or Skater's directions, they were pretty good, but simply because I was otherwise engaged trying to keep my dog out of the canal, which I failed in the end because she got in, that's how I missed it. That's my excuse, and that's what I'm sticking to. Right then, I'm going to take a look at this former man shaft now. We'll whip the camera around in a moment. I believe this man shaft isn't a man shaft that they used to send men down, so there would have been no headgear or anything over. It was simply an earth shaft, because what this used to serve was what was known as a furnace pit, where they would build a tall chimney and they would light a fire at the bottom of the pit, and the idea was to get the air circulating, and they would use air shafts like this to draw the air in. It was the days before fans, apparently. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at this now, and we'll see if it still has its tag. So join me in a moment once I've whipped the camera round, and I'll reveal all, so to speak. And there we have it, Hot Potters. This former man shaft does indeed still bear its original NCB tag, although it is looking a little bit worn and a little bit war-torn these days, but it's still there, and I can just make out some of the lettering. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment, but as you can see from this capping, which is rather large, and the concrete's quite thick there, it would appear that this former air shaft goes down quite a way, and that's why they've capped it to such a standard. Now, when you look at the thickness of these cappings, there's no way on God's earth is that going to collapse under the weight of a child. Although some of it is breaking away there, so maybe this concrete is slowly deteriorating, having been out here for 50 years. As I said, it's located just off the footpath, and below me there is where the former railway line would have ran that we walked along in the first video of this little series. And it's strange to think that this man shaft here predates that railway, and that they built a railway so close to a former shaft. But I was told by one of my subscribers, Gareth Parr I believe it is, that there's, from Wigan town centre, there's something like 1,100 man shafts located and dotted all around, so it would be impossible to avoid them all, really, wouldn't it? Anyway, folks, I'm going to step up onto the shaft, do something that my mother said I should never do, and walk across the capping, and we'll take a look at that tag, because that's the money shot, really, isn't it? And there we have it, folks. Now, the reason this one survived is because it was made out of aluminium, as opposed to the bog standard plastic ones that they used to stick on. I mean, some of these former man shafts used to have some real Gucci tags on them. They'd tell you the depth of the shaft, the name of the former pit, and the date it was capped. But this one would simply have read, "Danger, old shaft, keep out, by order, NCB." I'll try and use a little bit of wizardry and put the writing back on it for you so you can see what it would have looked like back in the day. Now on the other side there's also the tag, but as you can see that one is well worn, and it does look like it's suffered from people taking pot shots with air rifles at it. And as you can see, simply, old Father Time has not been kind to that one. But because this one is on this side, and there's nowhere to take an aim from there, because you're straight down a ravine, I think that's why this one has survived. Really interesting that some of these have survived, because as I said, you don't normally see them on here. Now what they used to do back in the day, they used to set up concrete, and I've seen metal posts, and in some cases just old andalion, with holes drilled through them, and then they would just put simply 3 strands of wire through them to keep people out. But it looks like this one has either not had any concrete posts or anything like that put around it, or simply they've fallen by the wayside over time. Really interesting. I'm always interested and fascinated by old relics and anything from the old mining era of Wigan in the days of King Cole. Anyway, folks, I think I'll close with this little shot here before I whip the camera around and we wrap this video up. Well, folks, you joined me back at the old jalopy, where I think that'll just about do it for today. I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video and taking a look, finally, after 3 attempts, third time lucky and all that kind of stuff here, at that old earth shaft to one of the former mine shafts in the Arley area of Wigan. Now, I must be honest with you, hot potters, I'm a little bit embarrassed that it's taken me 3 attempts to locate that old shaft for you, and I don't think I would have ever found it if it wasn't for this little baby and cheating and using technology. It is something to remember for myself, for future reference, that I can use a sat-nav to locate some of those hard-to-find locations for future reference. So, all's not been lost really, has it? Anyway, I'm going to end it here. I'm going to get out of here and head off back home to edit up this video, ready for your edification as always. So, until the next time, which hopefully will be very soon, it is bye-bye for now. The search, hot potters, is over.